The stranger in the barn. The wind rolled low across the Kansas plains, tugging dry leaves through the broken slats of an old barn. Thomas Calloway rose with the dawn, as he had every day for the past 4 years. His boots landed heavy on the wooden floor beside his bed. He reached instinctively to the other side, cold, empty. The silence of his farmhouse clung to him like the dust on the windowsills. He poured black coffee into a chipped mug and stepped outside. A walk to the barn was part of the rhythm now. Feed the animals. Check the water lines. Try not to remember that Maggie used to do the same things, humming quietly behind him, always one step ahead. But that morning, something was wrong. A rustle, faint but deliberate, drifted through the barn door left ajar. Thomas paused. No raccoon made a sound like that. He stepped inside slowly, hand brushing the shotgun near the entrance. Then he saw her, a woman, curled into herself, lay on a nest of hay. Her dark coat was caked in road dust, her boots soaked through. One arm tucked beneath her head, the other clutching a battered leather bag. She stared but didn't wake. Her face, pale, drawn, streaked with dried tears, was turned toward the warm breath of a sleeping horse. Thomas didn't speak. For a long moment, he simply watched. Then, as if on cue, her eyes opened. They were gray, startlingly so. She didn't flinch, didn't scream. She looked at him the way a lost animal might, halfway between fear and fatalism. "I'm not here to steal," she said softly, accent lilting. "Just needed a roof for the night." Thomas kept the barrel lowered but didn't relax. "This your idea of shelter?" "No," she said, sitting up slowly. "It's the only one I found." She stood, brushing hay from her coat. The motion revealed thin wrists, one marred with faint bruises. Her coat shifted. A mail-order shipping label, crumpled and half-torn, peeked out from her bag. He recognized it. 2 months ago, Thomas had wandered through a late-night spiral and clicked on a matchmaking site. Mail-order brides. Rural companionship. Desperation disguised as destiny. He never followed through. The idea felt obscene. But now one was standing in his barn. "What's your name?" he asked. "Elena," she said. "Marenko. And how exactly did you end up here?" "Elena Marenko." Her voice faltered. "The man I came to meet didn't meet me. He was supposed to. At the depot. Never showed. I waited 2 nights. Bus driver said this farm might give me shelter." Thomas looked her over again, mud on the hem of her dress, a healing split in her lower lip, the unmistakable weight of someone who'd run too far, too long. "Why didn't you go back?" he asked. Elena looked at him, and for a moment her composure cracked. "Back to what?" He didn't answer. "Please," she added. "Just till morning. Then I'll go." He wanted to say no. Every part of him, his caution, his grief, his ghost of a promise to Maggie, urged him to tane her away. But his voice betrayed him. "There's coffee inside," he said. "Come warm up." She hesitated, then followed. The farmhouse welcomed her with the same chill that lived in its corners. Elena sat at the table while Thomas poured her a cup. She held it close, fingers trembling slightly from the cold. "You live alone?" she asked after a time. He nodded. "Since my wife passed." "I'm sorry." He didn't respond. That phrase had become empty currency in his world. "You must miss her," Elena added. Thomas looked at her, surprised by the sincerity in her tone. "Every day," he said, then added, "But I don't talk about her." Elena gave a soft nod and sipped in silence. Minutes passed. Outside, the storm clouds thickened. A low grumble of thunder echoed across the flat land. "Where were you planning to go?" he asked. She gave a humorless smile. "I was promised a new life, but I wasn't told it required a receipt." Thomas allowed himself a short laugh, dry, startled. "Well, I don't keep receipts either." They sat in the quiet hum of the wind pressing against the house, 2 strangers surrounded by too many memories and too few choices. Elena looked up, her voice nearly a whisper. "I didn't come looking for trouble, Mr. Calloway. I came looking for silence." Thomas stood, walked to the window, and stared at the coming storm. "You found it," he said. "At least for tonight." The marriage before dawn. The storm arrived with teeth. Rain rattled the tin roof like scattered nails while wind howled through the shutters. In the dim glow of the oil lantern, Thomas watched Elena sip from the same coffee he'd reheated 3 times, her hands cupped tightly around the chipped mug as though warmth might seep into her bones through ceramic. She hadn't asked for more than silence. But silence, he was learning, had a weight to it. And tonight, it pressed hard on both of them. Elena sat at the small kitchen table, legs tucked beneath her as though she feared leaving footprints. She'd showered, the scent of lavender soap lingering faintly in the air. The bruises on her wrists, now clean and more visible, unsettled Thomas in a way he didn't fully understand. "How long were you with him?" he asked quietly, not facing her. She knew who he meant. 5 years, she said, and then 3 days too many. He turned, finally meeting her eyes. "He your husband?" "On paper." Her voice was steady. "But men like Gregor don't honor paper. They own what they claim." Thomas sat down across from her. The lantern light flickered, painting shadows beneath his eyes. "You could go to the sheriff." She smiled, a fragile, haunted thing. "You think I haven't tried that already? They don't arrest ghosts." A moment passed. Thunder cracked outside. The walls groaned as wind pulled against them, testing the frame. "I'm not a victim," she said suddenly. "Don't mistake me for someone who's broken." Thomas didn't. She didn't have the posture of someone shattered. She sat upright, spoke plainly. But there was a fracture in her voice, the kind you only heard if you listened closely. He rubbed a hand over his face, unsure why his chest ached. "Why come here?" Elena leaned back, searching for words. "I chose a name from a list. This place looked far, quiet. I didn't want a husband. I wanted escape. Safety. And you thought you'd find it in Kansas. I thought I'd disappear better here than anywhere else." He gave a dry laugh, half bitter. "Well, you've done that. No one comes out here unless they mean to stay lost." Their eyes met. Something unspoken passed between them. A shared exile, a recognition of grief in another form. The rain softened for a moment, then picked up again, relentless. The lantern guttered briefly before steadying. Elena stood. "Do you have wine?" she asked suddenly. Thomas blinked. "What?" "I could use something warm that doesn't taste like regret." He hesitated, then nodded. From the pantry, he pulled a bottle of red left untouched since Maggie's passing. Dust clung to the label. He poured 2 glasses, the clink of glass onward sounding louder than it should. They drank slowly. The wine wasn't good, but it was warm. "I was married 12 years, Thomas said, surprising even himself. "Cancer. Took her in 8 months. She died right here, on that sofa." Elena glanced at it. Her expression softened. "Did you love her?" He nodded once. "Still do." "You think she'd be angry if you let someone else in?" "I don't know." He looked into his glass. "I think she'd want me to breathe again." Elena set her drink down. "Would you marry again?" The question floated between them, heavy and unreal. "I haven't thought about it," he lied. "I have," she said. "Every night since I left Gregor. I thought, if I had one clean promise, one name to wear, maybe it would be enough to keep him from finding me." He watched her, the way her voice barely held together, the way her fingers curled on the tabletop. "If you needed that name," he said slowly, "what would you do to get it?" She didn't answer, not with words. Instead, she reached across the table, placed her hand gently over his. The clock ticked once, twice. The world outside vanished in the wind. He stood, pulled the old laptop from a drawer, and opened it on the kitchen table. The wedding officiant site loaded in a flicker. Rural judge, 24-hour approval. All legal, even if a little desperate. She stayed at the screen. Then at him. "You don't even know me." Thomas shook his head. "No, but I know what it means to want a name to hold on to." "Why would you do this?" "Because you're already here," he said. "And because I'd rather marry someone honest about what they need than live another year pretending I don't." Elena's eyes welled, but no tears fell. She clicked start. The process was quick. Bureaucracy in the age of loneliness. A few forms. A soft-spoken video call. The judge on the other end barely looked up. Names were said. Promises made. No rings, just the gravity of their silence. When it was done, the judge logged off. The storm had stopped. Dawn cracked faintly across the horizon. Windless, gold, still. Elena looked at Thomas, her voice shaking. What now? He took her empty glass and set it in the sink. Now, we see what truth costs. Echoes of the past. The days that followed settled into something resembling routine. Elena took to the rhythm of the farm with quiet discipline, feeding the hens before sunrise, tending to the herb patch behind the house, folding sheets on the line with the precision of someone who had spent too much time learning to survive without being noticed. Thomas watched, always from a slight distance. There was something both comforting and disquieting in her presence. Where Maggie had filled a space with laughter and hums, Elena occupied it like smoke, soft, elusive, never quite staying in one place. At night, they shared a table but not a bed. That line, unspoken, remained untouched. Caleb Norris, Thomas's longtime neighbor and closest friend, was the first to speak aloud what others in town were whispering. You married her. Caleb squinted, lifting his cap and wiping his forehead with the back of his hand. After one night. Thomas shrugged, leaning against the fence line. Wasn't exactly a shotgun wedding. She needed help. I had space. That's not the same thing as love, Tom. Thomas didn't reply. Caleb continued, his voice lower now. You don't fix loneliness by inviting more secrets into your life. But Thomas had no rebuttal, only the ache of truth settling behind his ribs. Back at the house, Elena was sorting through drawers Maggie had once organized. She handled each item gently, but the act was intrusive all the same. Thomas watched her fold a pair of Maggie's mittens and place them into a sealed box. You don't have to do that, he said. She looked up. They are not mine to touch. No, that's not what I meant. She sat on the edge of the bed, the box between them like a closed door. Do you still speak to her? Elena asked. Thomas frowned. She's gone. But she's still here. In the things. In you. He didn't answer. Because yes, Maggie lingered. In the scent of cinnamon on the pantry shelf. In the half-finished quilt folded in the cedar chest. In the unplayed records in the living room. Elena stood and went to the window. A silence thickened between them. Then, without turning, she asked, if I told you I'm still married to someone else, on paper, what would you do? Thomas's jaw tightened. Is that a hypothetical? No. He moved slowly to sit beside her. Is that man? Gregor? Elena nodded. You didn't mention that when we stood in front of a judge. I didn't think it would matter. We were married overseas. It's not valid here, but it's still real. She turned toward him now, eyes steady. So is what happened to me. The bruises, the hiding, the fear. That marriage was never about love. It was about ownership. I ran from it, but it follows me. Thomas stewed, pacing once across the room. So I'm the second lie. No, she said firmly. You're the first truth I've chosen. But the words couldn't patch what had opened in him. It wasn't the legality. It was the betrayal of simplicity. He'd needed this to be clean. Instead, it was another tangle of grief and half-light. That night, Thomas slept in the barn. He lay where she once had, staring at the rafters, listening to the wind creep through the beams. In that space, surrounded by hay and silence, he thought of Maggie, not in the fading light of her final days, but in the golden hours when she danced barefoot in the garden, laughing like it mattered. Morning came hard. Thomas returned to the kitchen to find Elena already dressed, her bag at her side. You're leaving, he said. She didn't look up. I thought maybe I should. He nodded once. I won't stop you. She moved toward the door, then paused. You deserve someone without a past like mine. And you deserve someone who sees you as more than what you ran from. She hesitated, then set the bag down. Maybe we both deserve something honest, she said. Thomas didn't speak, but he didn't ask her to pick the bag back up either. Outside, the wind lifted through the trees, rustling leaves that hadn't fallen yet, but would, inevitably, when the time came. A heart divided. The mornings came colder now, and the silence between them had turned from gentle to brittle. Elena still moved through the farmhouse with purpose, making coffee, checking the coop, but her steps had grown quieter, her presence thinner, as if trying not to leave prints on a life that already had too many scars. Thomas had stopped going to the barn. The hay no longer offered refuge, only reminders. Instead, he sat on the porch most mornings, wrapped in Maggie's old coat, watching the road as if expecting someone, or something, to come for them. He wasn't sure which he feared more. It arrived in the form of an envelope. Plain, with no return address, it sat wedged between their gate and the post. Elena found it while bringing in the morning paper. She didn't open it immediately. Her fingers trembled when she held it, eyes fixed on the seal like it might detonate. Later, alone in the kitchen, she slid her thumbnail along the edge and unfolded the single page inside. It was from Gregor. The words were few but chilling. "You can run, but I know your name now." Elena folded the letter back with shaking hands and slid it into the side of her boot. She didn't tell Thomas, but secrets never hold their breath forever. He found the letter 2 nights later, tucked beneath the steps where her boot had overturned after she slipped in the rain. His eyes scanned the text once, then again, each word settling like cold stones in his gut. When he confronted her, she didn't deny it. "I didn't tell you because I didn't want to lose what little peace we'd found," she said. "That wasn't peace," Thomas snapped. "That was pretending." She met his anger with stillness. "Then maybe pretending was the closest thing I've ever had to peace." He turned away, jaw clenched, staring at the shadows stretching across the living room. "You brought danger into my home." "I brought truth. Eventually." Thomas laughed bitterly. "Eventually always comes too late." She stepped closer. "If I told you everything on that first night, would you have let me stay?" He hesitated. "No," he admitted. "I wouldn't have." "There it is," she whispered. "That's why I lied." Thomas sat heavily on the edge of the sofa, the same one where Maggie had once slipped away in his arms. "You say you ran from him, but you ran into me, and I let you." "I didn't come looking to be saved," she said. "I came hoping someone might see me." He looked up at her then, not the woman curled in hay, not the one pouring coffee in borrowed peace, but Elena, with her flaws, her wounds, her stubborn hope. "I see you now," he said. "All of you." The space between them was narrow, but it felt wide with implication. She sat beside him. They didn't touch. "You still love her," Elena said quietly. Thomas nodded. "Every day. And still, you made vows to me." "I think I needed to believe I could love again, even if it wasn't the same kind." She turned to him, eyes wet but steady. "And now?" He took a breath. "Now I know love can't be built on ghosts." She reached for his hand, not to hold it, but to lay hers beside it. Close, not quite touching. "I'm not asking for a future," she said. "Just a place to exist." Honestly. The old clock in the hallway ticked louder in the stillness. Time passing. Time offered. "You don't have to leave," he said at last. "But we start from where we are, not from where we ran." Elena nodded once. No more lies. No more pretending. They sat that way until the light changed, until the world outside shifted from gray to gold, until the quiet felt less like avoidance and more like understanding. Outside, wind stirred the last of the autumn leaves from the trees, letting them fall without ceremony.